in the house, guys. How you guys doing today? As you guys can see from the title of this video, this is going to be the biggest and most epic video that I'm going to do on this channel. It's time to talk about my top 30 favorite movies of all time. Consider my favorite movies of all time. Yes, I know I have done this before. I have done some top 10s in the past, but I just couldn't count these movies up to a top 10 because there's so many movies that I can just adore. So I decided, let's make a top 30 list, and this is going to be a long and the most epic video on my channel. And since Austin Perk and Ron O'Toole's doing it during this quarantine, you know what? Let's do this video, because I love talking about my favorite movies. These are the movies that mean so much to me. These are the movies of what I considered movies, and no other movies out there are better than these 30 movies out there. Even my honorable mentions, and speaking of honorable mentions, I'm not going to mention out because there's so many movies that I can just watch every single day. So if you want to hear my honorable mentions, it's going to be in the description below the social media information. So it's going to be right there. But this is going to be a long video, and let's just get started talking about my top 30 favorite movies, in my opinion, of all freaking time. So you are in for the ride, guys. So let's start off with number 30 with Reservoir Dogs, a Quentin Tarantino film which I love. I love Quentin Tarantino. He's one of my favorite directors because he's so unique and original. Reservoir Dogs make heist films so unique and different. We've seen heist films so many times before when this movie came out. This is the movie that made heist films so iconic and so different. The cast in this movie is absolutely amazing. We've got Michael Madsen, we've got Steve Buscemi, Harvey Keitel, Quentin Tarantino himself, Tim Roth. Great cast. To me, this is one of the most quotable Quentin Tarantino films that I've ever seen. Here are your names: Mr. Blue, Mr. Brown, Mr. Orange, and Mr. Pink. But why am I Mr. Pink? Because you're a faggot, alright? One of my favorite scenes in the entire movie, the whole meeting and the whole codename thing, it always makes me laugh still till this day. The thing about Quentin Tarantino that I love, he makes dialogue very interesting in movies. Mostly dialogues in films can bore us. This film, holy shit, the dialogue in this movie is absolutely incredible. You shall not pass! Of course we're going to put Lord of the Rings on one of my favorite movies list. I love the whole entire world of Middle-earth, and The Fellowship of the Ring is definitely my favorite out of this trilogy. I like The Return of the King, it's freaking epic. The Two Towers I also liked. I didn't love it, but I liked. But I adore The Fellowship of the Ring. I love the introduction to all the characters in the movie, from the hobbits, from the dwarves, to the wizards. Gandalf, one of the most iconic movie characters in my opinion of all time, played by Ian McKellen, who was fantastic, and I'm so unbelieved that he's still alive right now. He's one of the most legendary actors out there. I love this whole setup to the whole trilogy, basically. I love the world of Middle-earth. I love the story with the ring. I love the opening scene of the movie that tells the story of the ring. I love the books. I've read the books. The books are absolutely fantastic, and this movie suits the books really, really well. Usually with very, very long movies, I usually say, oh, this scene dragged on. Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, I never get tired of it. It's one of the most beautiful looking films I've ever seen. Peter Jackson directed this trilogy, especially this movie, really freaking well. Frodo! Sam! Of course we're going to put Christopher Nolan films on my list. He's one of my favorite directors. Batman Begins is definitely to me my favorite Batman film. I consider The Dark Knight more as a movie than this movie, and spoiler, that's on my list. But Batman Begins is absolutely my favorite Batman film because it tells the origin story of Bruce Wayne really, really well. It actually took its time for Bruce Wayne to get in the suit, so most of this movie is about Bruce Wayne, and Christian Bale plays him really, really well, and you care more about Bruce Wayne than he is in The Mask, and that is fantastic because most movies, we just want to see superheroes do action scenes. We don't care about the characters. Every single character in this movie was great, from Christian Bale, from Liam Neeson as Ra's al Ghul, fantastic in the film. Michael Caine as Alfred, legendary, one of the most iconic Alfred roles of all time. And Morgan Freeman also, he's very great in the movie. And yes, I'm the only one that likes Katie Holmes as Rachel. I thought she was good in the film. The action is fantastic. I love the first scene when Batman's appearing, where he's fighting those thugs and holding out Tom Wilkinson saying, "I'm Batman," just one of the most epic scenes ever. Nice coat. To me, Batman Begins is one of my favorite origin stories put into film, and I thought Batman Begins deserves to be my favorite movies of all time. Edward Scissorhands, as my sister likes to call it, Edward Scissorpants. How weird is that? Now, I like Tim Burton from the olden days when he does Beetlejuice and Nightmare Before Christmas. He's very iconic in those days, but Edward Scissorhands is definitely my favourite out of his. I love the colour scheme of this movie, first of all. When Edward's in his castle, it's very dark and Tim Burton-y, but when you see this town that Edward is being in, it's all colourful, and that's what Tim Burton wanted us to imagine. It's like a whole new world movie, basically. I think Edward Scissorhands, to me, is like a Beauty and the Beast type scenario. We got this man that's been invented by this adventurer, but he died before finishing him, so he couldn't have hands. He has scissors for hands, and this teenage girl. And I thought the romance in this movie was fantastic, and it turns out to be, in my opinion, one of my favourite romance films of all time. It is weird, it's sometimes scary, but it's also a beautiful film. Especially to me, one of my favourite shot scenes is where Winona Ryder just dances around the snow while Edward is cutting the snow thing. You know what I mean? I just can't explain what it's called, doing the snow piece of her, basically. And I thought that scene was absolutely beautiful. And the score of this movie also made me cry every single time. And to me, Edward Scissorhands is the best performance by Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp and Tim Burton have been working so long, and I think this is, to me, one of my favourite Johnny Depp performances if I get to pick one. Spider-Man 2 is definitely one of my favourite superhero films of all time because it really balances the characters of Peter Parker and Spider-Man. This, to me, felt more like a character study than a superhero film, and to me, in my opinion, this is my favourite movie in the Sam Raimi trilogy. And I think that's everyone's favourite, but to me, out of all the superhero films out there that feels like a superhero film, Spider-Man 2 is a goddamn great superhero film because it really develops the character of Peter Parker so well. Taking place, like, what if superheroes are in the real world? What will the identity happen, basically? What is the identity doing right now while this is happening? And of course, it sucks because he misses classes, he misses MJ's play, all that stuff, and it makes this movie more heartbreaking. I think, to me, Spider-Man 2 is one of the best developed superhero films ever, and to me, one of the best villains in a Spider-Man movie. Doc Ock, Alfred Molina, who plays Otto Octavius, was phenomenal in this movie, and the train fight scene. Like, there's nothing wrong with that scene. That scene is amazing. Welcome to Jurassic Park. Of course, one of the most iconic movies of all time is one of my favorite movies. This is, to me, my favorite Steven Spielberg film. Literally, the T-Rex scene, when the T-Rex is introduced, still holds up as one of my favorite scenes of all freaking time. When I saw that scene as a kid, I was literally cheering. And I used to like dinosaurs as a kid. And when I saw Jurassic Park for the first time, I was literally mind blown. To me, Jurassic Park is a movie that done the monster genre really, really well. Because out of it showing the monsters, they made the human characters really interesting. We've got Dr. Grant, played by Sam Neill, but to me, my favorite character in the entire movie, and I think it's everyone's, Ian Malcolm, played by Jeff Goldblum. Nailed it. One of the best side characters I've seen in a film. Chaos Theory. Chaos Theory. Yeah. Chaos Theory. You think we'll take that on the tour? Just one of the best casting choices I've seen in a film. A lot of people consider Forrest Gump as the best Tom Hanks performance and one of the best Robert Zemeckis films. I love that film, but to me, Castaway is definitely my favorite Robert Zemeckis Tom Hanks collaboration. To me, Castaway is one of my favorite survival films of all time because it did its job really, really well. Care about a guy and care about a freaking volleyball, a product placement as an actual character. That's when films have magic right there. This is definitely, to me, my favorite Tom Hanks performance. I thought he was fantastic in this movie. Basically, it's about this guy on the island living by himself for 4 years. Yeah, it's not a spoiler because the trailers market this movie like that. I'm like, who made these trailers? But this movie, of course, it's emotional, it's epic. Everything about Castaway is just a beautiful written story that a lot of people just keep ripping it off and it never does it well. Wilson! $1.21 gigawatts! Doc! What are we gonna do, Doc? Back to the Future, of course. Everyone has to put Back to the Future on their favorite movies of all time. If not, you are guilty, basically. You are freaking guilty. Back to the Future is one of my favorite science fiction films. I love time travel films. I really do. Back to the Future is the one that made time travel so much justice, and especially the chemistry between Doc Brown and Marty McFly. Just best duos that I've seen in a movie, and honestly, what can we do without them in movie history? They're just so likable together, especially Christopher Lloyd as Doc Brown. Just best performance and best casting choice I've ever seen with Jeff Goldblum as Ian Malcolm, and has one of the best iconic movie cars of all time, the DeLorean. Just, I wanted to have that car in time travel to basically mistakes I've been doing in the past. And we got Biff, one of the biggest dicks I've seen in a movie, and that guy who played Biff just nails it completely. Back to the Future is one of my favorite science fiction films, and to me, my favorite Robert Zemeckis film, and now that Robert Zemeckis film, that's on my list. Yeah, I'm gonna cheat on this one. Like, a movie that came out 2 years ago is one of my favorite movies. I don't care, it's my list, I can put whatever movie I want. Blade Runner 2049 is one of the best sequels that came out in a very, very long time. I'm gonna confess, I did like the first Blade Runner movie. I thought it's very, very overrated. And I was very nervous for Blade Runner 2049, but thanks to Denis Villeneuve direction with this movie made me fall in love with Blade Runner. This is one of the best written movies I've seen in a long time. Ryan Gosling, fantastic, but Harrison Ford, he needs an Oscar for this movie. Why isn't he nominated? The cinematography of this movie is absolutely fantastic, and to me, Denis Villeneuve is one of the best directors in the last decade, in my opinion. The score of this movie is also great, but the story, I get it throughout the Hollywood type film. It's a great crime, mystery, science fiction film that develops why we love movies so much. So Blade Runner 2049 is the movie that brings movies back. I love Blade Runner 2049. I could watch this movie all the time. It's one of my favorite sequels of all time. You talking to me? You talking to me? Taxi Driver is one of my favorite Martin Scorsese films. I love Martin Scorsese. He's a very artistic director, and the way he made Taxi Driver is so revolutionary, especially how disturbing, how edgy this film is. And this is definitely, in my opinion, one of the best Rob De Niro performances of all time. It's like, what more can I say about Taxi Driver? It's one of the most iconic Martin Scorsese films. I love this film. It's very gritty, it's very violent, and it's very disturbing too. And I kind of like films like that because it made me entertained. Not to say I'm like a disturbing guy, basically. It just makes me entertained for some really creepy, messed up reason. Taxi Driver is one of my favorite Martin Scorsese films. If I could pick one, it is definitely a classic out of his career. In space, nobody can hear you scream. Alien is one of my favorite horror films of all time. It is a movie that balances science fiction and horror, mixing it together and make one compelling movie with one of the most iconic movie design aliens of all time. I love the xenomorphs, they look freaking great in this movie. But what's great about this movie is that they don't really show the xenomorph that much. You see the suspense in the movie. And that's how terrifying this movie is, especially that this movie took place in space. You don't want to go to space after this movie, honestly. And we got one of the most badass female roles of all time, Sigourney Weaver as Ripley. Just fantastic in this film. And I just love the opening scene where it just shows 5 minutes of the ship, and you already feel suspense. Ridley Scott is a great director. He's really great at styling films. Alien is my favorite out of this whole entire series. A lot of people consider Aliens their favorite. I love Aliens, but it just can't beat its predecessor in my opinion. Alien is just phenomenal. If I could pick my favorite Harry Potter film, it is Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Now, I know a lot of people say Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban is their favorite Harry Potter film. To me, mine is the Goblet of Fire. It definitely introduces the dark ages of the wizarding world. The first 3 movies are fantastic, especially The Prisoner of Azkaban, that introduces us magic in a whole new way. Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire is, to me, phenomenal and my favorite because it introduces the dark world of the wizarding world, where Harry Potter competes in the Tri-Wizard Tournament, and to me, one of the most iconic scenes in the Harry Potter series, Lord Voldemort returns, and it's the biggest surprise. Even when I rewatched this movie and know what happens, I still had chills in my spine when Voldemort appears. To me, one of my favorite villains in a movie. I always liked Harry Potter and Goblet of Fire. It's one of those Harry Potter movies I could rewatch all over again, especially as a kid, because this movie is just so epic. It makes me cheer every single scene. Like the dragon scene, fantastic. I love the way that scene is filmed. And of course the 3 main leads, Daniel Radcliffe, Rupert Grint, Emma Watson as Harry, Ron, and Hermione. Just one of my favorite trios I've seen in film. You just want to be friends with those 3 people. I love the Goblet of Fire. It's my favorite Harry Potter movie in the series. A lot of people see The Prisoner of Azkaban as their favorite. To me, I love The Goblet of Fire. It's one of my favorite movies, and one of the best shotted Harry Potter movies also. Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. In my opinion, Die Hard is one of the best Christmas movies ever made. To me, has one of the best action heroes I've seen in a movie. John McClane, played by Bruce Willis, just so fantastic and great casting right now. Like, back then, Bruce Willis was a comedian. And now he's done Die Hard, and he's one of the coolest action stars out there. I can watch Die Hard every single Christmas. It's one of the best action films, one of the best terrorist films. I love Hans Gruber in this film. One of the best realistic villains of all time. Rest in peace, Alan Rickman. Another Alan Rickman role because he was Professor Snape in the Harry Potter series. But Hans Gruber, just one of the best villain roles of all time. There's nothing much to say about Die Hard. You know why I love Die Hard. It's just a fun action movie. And one of the most likable heroes of all time just stole the entire freaking film. Welcome to the party, pal! Yeah, I'm thinking I'm back. John Wick, in my opinion, is one of the best action movies in the last decade. Well, I would say one of them. To me, John Wick is a movie that I did not expect it to be in my favorite movies of all time. I thought it was going to be this stereotypical action movie that has a pretty silly premise. We didn't even expect this movie to even have a trilogy, and look at us now. John Wick is awesome! To me, John Wick is one of my favorite anti-hero type movies. And it took a revenge concept really, really well. It may sound silly, but when you watch the movie, it made so much sense. And it definitely, to me, brings Keanu Reeves on the map. I think it's one of his better performances in recent times. Probably not of all time, but more of recent times. I think he's badass in the film. The action, unbelievable. The club scene, just great. And I love all the movies. I honestly love it. But, of course, I have to put its predecessor on the top 10 favorite movies of all time, because if we haven't got this movie, we haven't got one of my favorite trilogies in recent times. Speaking of Keanu Reeves, yes, The Matrix is one of my favorite original concepts that I've seen in a film. Think about it. What if this world we live in right now isn't real? There's no religion or anything. It's all run in a computer. The Matrix developed that plot so well. I remember seeing this movie as a kid and I was so confused. And the more I watched this movie, the more I get it and the more I loved it. And we studied this movie at my school. It's one of the best subjects that I've ever get to learn in a very long time. Cool characters like Keanu Reeves, best performance ever. Yes, I said John Wick is one of his best performances in recent times, but I think Neo is one of Keanu Reeves' best performances ever. We've got Lawrence Fishburne, which is awesome, but Agent Smith, played by Hugo Weaving, is one of my favorite movie villains. Just badass villain. Of course, we get the famous bullet time scene, just one of the most coolest looking scenes in a movie, and something that everyone else parodies, but it's one of the coolest shotted scenes, and one of the most unexpected scenes we've seen in a movie. The Matrix still holds up today, and I'm very interested to see what Matrix 4 comes about, because the other movies were not that good. Captain America Civil War is definitely my favorite MCU film of all time. Yes, Avengers Infinity War and Endgame are phenomenal, but Captain America Civil War brings Marvel movies to a high note. I think Captain America Civil War is one of the most realistic superhero films I've ever seen. It basically tells that what if all the battles the Avengers face basically terrorize people. And it's something that I'm like, yes, that is a realistic way to do a superhero film, and that makes all the other Avengers go against each other, especially Captain America and Iron Man. I love the story of this movie throughout, but the airport battle scene is a scene that's so iconic in an MCU film in a very long time, especially introducing us to Black Panther and one of my favorite superheroes, Spider-Man. I was just so unbelieved that Spider-Man's in the Marvel Universe, and when they showed this in the trailer, I'm just like, wow. And when Spider-Man's in a movie, it gets more better from there. Tom Holland's just great. Tom Holland is definitely one of my favorite portrayals of Spider-Man for a while with Tobey Maguire. Yes, Andrew Garfield sucks. But of course the final battle between Captain America and Iron Man is just so epic and so amazing. And the best thing of all, you don't root for one of them. You basically root for all of them. They both have their reasonings. That's why Captain America Civil War is my favorite MCU film. One of my favorite comic book films of all time in my favorite movies category. Yes, I considered Spider-Man 2 as one of the best superhero films, but I would say my favorite Spider-Man film of all time is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. This is a movie that we also did not expect this to be in my favorite movies category, And look what we have now. One of the best comic book movies in a very, very long time. Probably in the last decade, in my opinion. The animation in this movie is absolutely beautiful. To me, my favorite animation that I have ever freaking seen. The animation looks so original and so different. The character of Miles Morales, we finally get to see that on the big screen, and his character was fantastic. But also, the Spider-Verse people, every single Spider-Man, we thought it's going to be crowded. No, every single Spider-Man has their standouts. I love this movie so much. It's so fantastic. It's funny. The action's amazing. And we can't wait to see the sequel to this movie. Because to me, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is one of my favorite Spider-Man films of all time. Here's Johnny! The Shining is one of my favorite Stanley Kubrick films. And it's really weird because Stephen King, who done the books for this movie, which this movie is based on, he hates the movie. I don't understand. The Shining is one of my favorite horror films of all time because it brings the scares really, really well without false jump scares or something like that. To me, this is the movie that brings Jack Nicholson on the map. He's just one of the most craziest actors out there playing really crazy roles in movies and also very good serious roles in movies. This is my favorite Jack Nicholson performance. It's just everyone's favorite Jack Nicholson performance. He's just phenomenal in this movie. It's like Die Hard. What could I say about The Shining? The cinematography is fantastic. The way this movie is shot is amazing. The score, the theme, amazing. Especially when the opening scene still gives me chills. The Shining, just nothing else to say. It's very iconic. It's one of my favorite horror films of all time. Just, here's Johnny, basically. It's just, you just can't get out of it. I hate Peter Pan. To me, in my opinion, Hook is one of the most underrated movies of all time. Everyone says it's the worst Steven Spielberg movie. I completely disagree on hands. This is one of my favorite Steven Spielberg movies. This is the movie that I love as a kid. I used to love the Peter Pan story as a kid, and I found the best Peter Pan movie, Hook. Yes, the Disney film was also really great, but I thought Hook does its story really original and really freaking different. Basically telling what if Peter Pan did grow up? What is he becoming? And basically becoming the struggling father. And when his kid is kidnapped by Captain Hook, he has to save him. And it's just one of the coolest Peter Pan movies ever. The Lost Boys, Rufio, one of the most badass characters we've seen in the film. Dustin Hoffman as Hook, best casting. I love him as Hook. He's just perfect for the role. But of course, Robin Williams as Peter Pan is just phenomenal. I love Robin Williams in this role. Rest in peace, Robin Williams. This is my favorite role from him. He's just fantastic in this film. This basically brings us the magic of Peter Pan. I love the story, and this brings Neverland to justice. It makes me want to go there, not like stupid Pan when Hugh Jackman scene smelled like Teen Spirit. What the hell is that? Hook did the Peter Pan story so much justice, and the critics hated this movie. I don't understand. It's one of my favorite Steven Spielberg movies, so Hook, you are just fantastic. I love this movie as a kid, and I still love it till this day. Beauty and the Beast is definitely in my top 2 favorite Disney films of all time. Aladdin's going to be in my honorable mentions, but Beauty and the Beast is to me one of my favorite romance films of all time. Yes, I know, Beauty and the Beast is a girly type movie. In my opinion, Beauty and the Beast has something for everybody. All the characters are great, the songs are great, the animation is absolutely spectacular, and this is the Disney film that almost won Best Picture. Something that has never happened before. Not much animated films have got nominated for Best Picture. Beauty and the Beast is basically a movie that is so close to winning Best Picture, and I just think it deserves it. I thought the chemistry between Belle and the Beast is one of the best romantic chemistries that I've seen in a movie, and of course, just the song. Be Our Guest, Belle, Beauty and the Beast in general is just so iconic, and whoever hasn't seen Beauty and the Beast, you're basically living in a cave right now. I will kill every motherfucking last one of you! Pulp Fiction, another great Quentin Tarantino film, and to me, my favorite out of the Quentin Tarantino movies. Honestly, Pulp Fiction is a movie that has no plot. It's just different characters having different stories. That's what I love about Quentin Tarantino. He can make boring concepts very, very interesting. And some people just rip him off and they never do it as well as Quentin Tarantino. We got 2 mobsters. We got a sweetheart. We got a gangster. Just all those characters in this movie is just fantastic. From Samuel L. Jackson to John Travolta, from Uma Thurman, from Bruce Willis. Like, come on. Who doesn't like Pulp Fiction? I just love every single story of this movie. Every story of this movie is very, very interesting. And it's, to me, one of my favorite directed Quentin Tarantino movie ever. They made a scene where Samuel Jackson talks about cheeseburgers. Interesting. Just, Quentin Tarantino's the man right there. Mad Max Fury Road is my first ever movie review that I've ever done on this channel, and to me, I would say Mad Max, I agree with Chris Stuckman, is one of the best action movies in the last decade. It's on my top 10. Just Mad Max Fury Road, what can I say about this movie? Something that we did not expect to be this great. Like, wow, this movie is crazy. The cinematography was great. The stunts in this movie, there's no CGI, it's all stunts with car crashes and all that stuff. Tom Hardy, great as Max, but of course Charlize Theron, fantastic, badass role. We can't wait to see a spin-off for her character. Interesting, I never heard of it. I saw Ryan O'Toole's and he said that's going to happen. I'm like, this could be interesting. Hopefully George Miller directs it, because George Miller, he's almost 80, and he directs this movie so freaking well. Mad Max Fury Road is one of the best looking action films in the last decade, and it still holds up. And I saw this movie literally 5 times in the theater, I'm not even joking, and I was still amazed. And it turns out my favorite movie of 2015. The Wizard of Oz is one of my favorite childhood movies. This movie is a goddamn classic. This movie came out in the 30s, and I rewatched this movie on 4K. Where is it? I'm sure you can find it. It's right there. It looks great. It looks fantastic. It's like seeing a new movie, basically. Like, again, this movie came out in the 1930s, and it still holds up till today. I love this movie as a kid, and I watched this movie again, and it has to be on my favorite movies list. On my top 10, basically. This movie's fantastic. The characters are amazing. Dorothy, the Scarecrow from the Tin Man, from the Lion, the Wicked Witch of the West, one of the best villains of all time. This movie still makes me laugh, still makes me cry, still makes me happy, makes me want to follow the Yellow Brick Road. This is the movie that I don't want to see any other adaptations of. I think The Wizard of Oz stays as it is. Yes, Tom and Jerry did it, and like, what the hell is that? But of course, there's nothing to say about The Wizard of Oz. Somewhere Over the Rainbow is one of the best songs of all time. You know what I'm going to say about The Wizard of Oz. It's a goddamn classic. It's one of my favorite childhood movies. It's definitely on my top 10. Dun-dum. Dun-dum. Jaws. Just, what can I say about Jaws that hasn't been said by anybody? It's another one of those monster films that made the characters so iconic. We got Roy Scheider, we got Richard Travis, and we got Robert Shaw. Best trios that I've seen in a movie. But of course, the shark, animatronic. I heard this movie has so many difficulties with that. And the movie we got makes us more convincing than CGI sharks. Jaws is the only best shark film out there. And to me, one of my favorite horror films. The opening scene still gives me chills. It makes me scared to go in the water. Jaws, come on, there's nothing to say about Jaws. If you want to see my review of Jaws, go ahead. There's just nothing to say about it. It's one of the best movies out there. It's on my top 10. Love this movie. I could watch this movie every summer blockbusters, every summer movie season. It still holds up till this day. Jaws is one of the first summer blockbusters that ever came out, and I am honored to put this movie on my top 10 list. The Incredibles is definitely one of my favorite Pixar films, and to me, everyone's going to say it, the best Fantastic Four movie we're ever going to get. Hopefully not, because The Incredibles does not feel like that movie. It feels like a movie on its own. The Incredibles comes out with a really original story of what if superheroes are illegal, and brings out one of the most coolest characters in a Pixar movie. Mr. Incredible, Elastigirl, Dash, Violet, Jack even, Frozone. Come on, Samuel L. Jackson. Samuel motherfucking Jackson. Where's my super suit? So many great scenes in this movie. The Incredibles is a classic. Everyone considers The Incredibles as their favorite Pixar film. It is definitely one of my favorites. The Incredibles is just amazing. It's one of my favorite animated films of all time. One of the best looking animated films of all time. The scene where Dash runs, that scene is one of my favorite scenes as a kid, and still one of my favorite scenes in the Incredibles series. The Empire Strikes Back is definitely everyone's favorite Star Wars movie, including mine. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I love Star Wars. As a kid, I love Star Wars. The Empire Strikes Back does not feel like a Star Wars movie. It felt like a motherfucking film. It's a film that basically took something very different that we haven't seen before back then. When a villain wins. Basically, the villains in this movie stood out more than the good guys in this movie, especially throughout its story. Like, the Millennium Falcon is definitely into shit. The Hoth battle is very, very hard. Luke loses the fight between Darth Vader. Something we have not seen before in a Star Wars film, and comes up with one of the best iconic movie twists of all freaking time. What can I say about The Empire Strikes Back that hasn't been said? It's one of my favorite Star Wars films, and it's a Star Wars film that I could watch every day for the rest of my life. Everyone's saying, what about New Hope? New Hope is definitely on my honorable mention. Still love that movie, but it's never as good as The Empire Strikes Back. It just can't. Toy Story is one of my favorite animated films of all time as a kid, and my favorite Pixar film. This film is my childhood. And to me, in my opinion, is one of the best buddy duo films that I've ever seen. Woody and Buzz, two of the best characters in the Pixar film, and this is the very first Pixar film, and they still hold up as one of the best characters in the series. The Incredibles might be one of my favorite Pixar films, but it just can't top Toy Story. It's a film that just never gets out of me. It's part of my childhood. I have all the toys from the movie. It's just something that has always been stuck into me. Toy Story has some of the best comedy, has some of the best soundtracks. Rain New and You Gone Frame Me, just classic movie song of all freaking time. Said great villain in the movie. I used to be scared of the dog as a kid. Still now, that dog is terrifying. Like, who does want to have Scott? He's just one of the most terrifying dogs ever. Toy Story still stands out as one of the second films with Tron doing animation by a computer, and it still looks great, especially on Blu-ray. Alright guys, we are on the top 3. These are my favorite movies, like basically ever. Like, these are the 3 movies I could watch every single day. My number 3 goes to Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Hasta la vista, baby. And I remember my dad showing me this movie as a kid, and I was blown away by it. Terminator 2 Judgment Day has some of the coolest action that I've ever seen. That bike chase, one of the most coolest looking action scenes that I've seen in the movie. Arnold Schwarzenegger was just fantastic. One of my favorite roles by him. I consider him as one of the most hilarious action stars today, but I never laughed at him in Terminator 2 because he's just one hell of a badass. John Connor, great character. A lot of people hate Edward Furlong. I love Edward Furlong in this role, but the T-1000 is definitely one of my absolute favorite movie villains. He's just scary, he's terrifying, and badass. Like, my god, just that performance right there is just stunning in the film. If you haven't seen the first movie, you don't need to. Terminator 2 stands out by itself. It basically rehashes what happened in the first movie already, and we already get it. I watched Terminator 2 before seeing the first one, and to me, it's one of my favorite action movies, and definitely, absolutely my favorite in this franchise. Literally 1 and 2 is the best, and the other movies just sucked ass. Terminator 2 never sucked. I could watch Terminator 2 every day, and it still freaking holds up. The Lion King. This movie is basically my life. It's my life. It's the first movie I ever saw as a kid, and just still holds up. We've got one of the best heroes, Simba. We've got, to me, my favorite villain in an anime film, Scar. Jeremy Irons is fantastic. We've got 2 great comedic duos, Timon and Pumbaa. We've got a good love interest, Nala. The story of this movie is absolutely fantastic. And who doesn't cry at Mufasa's death? Seriously? That death scene, like, my god, James Earl Jones, just, no one can play Mufasa except him. The songs, fantastic. The animation, fantastic. Everyone's favorite Disney film, I could personally agree with that. There's not much to say about The Lion King. It's one of my favorite movies, but it may not be as good as my number 1 favorite movie of all time. And I think when you watch this list, you're thinking, that movie is missing. It's in my number 1. Of course, The Dark Knight is my favorite movie of all time. Seriously, who doesn't think The Dark Knight is one of the best movies ever made? We have one of the best stories ever. I love this movie so much. The first time I saw this movie in the theater, I was mind blown. I was 8 years old. And throughout this whole entire film, I was literally getting up to my seat. Especially, we've got one of the most iconic movie roles of all time, Heath Ledger as the Joker. And as you guys can see right behind this camera, you see a really cool picture of Heath Ledger as the Joker. Because this is the role that inspires me to be an actor. Heath Ledger, rest in peace. Because you just blew our mind as the Joker. No one else can play the Joker except you. I honestly think you're better than Joaquin Phoenix. Even though Joaquin Phoenix was great, you're still the Joker. You're still the Joker that we know and love. This movie, as I said, Batman Begins is one of my favorite Batman films, but The Dark Knight is one of my favorite movies. It does not feel like a Batman film. It does not feel like a Joker film. It feels like a motherfucking film. It has great story, great cinematography, great villain, great hero. This film is absolutely flawless. It's one of the best films ever made. No other films can beat The Dark Knight. Love this movie. Great. The action is fantastic. The quotes from Heath Ledger are freaking amazing. Why so serious? Well, my father was a drinker and a fiend. There's nothing to say about The Dark Knight. It's just fucking amazing. It's one of my favorite films ever. The Dark Knight, let me just get you real quick, is a movie that's part of my life and always was stated. Dark Knight, I could watch it every single day when I feel sad, when I feel mad, and it'll still make me happy. Just Dark Knight, freaking amazing. Woo! That is it, guys. This is my top 30 favorite movies of all time. My God, I'm actually really exhausted right now. Guys, let me know down below, what are your favorite movies of all time? It could be top 10, 20, 30, 50, even 100. Just let me know in the comments below. I really want to know your opinion of what are your favorite movies. Make sure you guys follow me on Facebook, Stardust, Instagram, and Twitter. More videos are coming out very, very soon. But make sure you guys subscribe to my channel, notified for my latest reviews, and have a nice day.